I'm going to say welcome to Lovecraft Cocktails, episode 35, 35, and we are going to be playing with some coquito. So we did a coquito recipe for episode 34, and that was a simple recipe. Ingredients essentially went into a blender, blended it up, and we added rum to that, and we added some spiced rum and a couple of other rums to that to get the spice profile in there. But the vast majority of coquito recipes don't call for spiced rum. They actually call for infusing the spices into your coconut milk mix. So I thought, well, let's give that a try and see how that works. So I did a second batch of coquito, and this time it was actually simmered and cooked with a bunch of spices. And then I strained those spices out, put that in the fridge for 5 or 6 hours, and that is now sitting here. Oh, we're gonna have an earthquake! Wow. Okay. Oh, and a hand. Ooh, the hand comes down. That's all right. It'll all work out in the end, I guess. So this is a cooked coquito recipe. It's not really cooked, it's just heated. And we let this simmer with spices for about, it simmered with the spices in it for about 10 minutes. This came out remarkably thicker than the previous batch of coquito. Very much thicker. So I'm going to stick this over here on my blender and give it a zap for a few moments and see if I can loosen it up just a tad. Unlike the other recipe where we added the rum and then blended, this doesn't actually have any rum in it. This is pure virginal coquito. So what we're going to do this evening is we are going to see, does the type of rum make a difference, and if so, how much? So let me pour this out a little bit. So that's about as thin as this is going to get until we start adding rums. So we're going to go with a base proportion of 2 parts of coquito to 1 part of rum. And that seems about right for across the recipes that I've seen. Look how thick this is. Wow, this is just like glop, glop, glop. When I first pulled it out of the fridge, I was like, oh, we're in trouble because this is kind of like paste. So we're going to see how this works. Sure, I'm just going to put this here because I'm going to need that. So we're going to go with 2 ounces of coquito. Glop, 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 glop. You know what? I'm going to go with 1 3/4 ounces of coquito. And I am so going to have to clean my bar mats after this. Wow. It's so thick that it is actually going to make it hard for me to read the lines in my jigger. Because it's just sort of coating them. So we'll see how this works. So shout out here to How to Drink. How to Drink is a YouTube channel phenomenon run by a guy named Greg. He's been doing it for, what, 5 years, 6 years, something. He's actually the one responsible for making me go, huh, why don't we do a rum tasting based on coquito? Because that's what he did in one of his last episodes. So I'm not going to tell you what rums he used, and there is some overlap here, but there is not a great deal of overlap. Yeah, we're gonna do a lot of tasting here. So that's 5. So we got 3 more. This stuff is, man, I'm going to be glad when we get some rum in here so that this loosens up just a tad. 6. My wife's going to hate me because she's going to have to wash all of the bar mats. One last one. I know this is terribly exciting, watching me pour coquito into glasses. So coquito has its origins, near as people can tell, to Puerto Rico. And as a consequence, it should come as no surprise that coquito calls for Puerto Rican rum. Now, Puerto Rican rum has a tradition for being very clean rum, It is definitely, in the Puerto Rican tradition, it is definitely column still. And most of the time, the richness of the flavors of the Puerto Rican rum come from the aging process that goes on. So all Puerto Rican rums have to be aged at least 1 year. So even the crystal clear Bacardi that you see on the shelves, like this one, yeah, this has been aged. I know it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it's ever seen wood, but it has. It's been aged about a year in oak, if I remember right, and then it's charcoal filtered to get this crystal clear coloration. And so we've got 2 ounces. No, we've got an ounce. Sorry about that. We have an ounce. Sure, we're just going to go with that. We have an ounce and 3/4 of coquito in there. So I'm going to go with 3/4 of an ounce of my rum. So the first rum we're going to try is Bacardi Superior, and this is about as pure as you can get in terms of San Juan, Puerto Rican kinds of rum. We are going to stick to Puerto Rico and go with Ron de Barrelito. This is probably my favorite rum from Puerto Rico. When I first discovered this, it was clocking in at about $35 a bottle, something like that, and it's now going for about $60 a bottle. So apparently other people have found it. Darn it. So we're going to put that in there. Next up, we're going to stay column still, but we're going to leave Puerto Rico. We're going to go to Cuba, and we're going to pull a Cuban Havana Club. So this is dark, has been aged 7 years. There should be far more woody notes from this, given that it spent 7 years in cask. Hello, hello. Hello, Gwen. Hello, all of you other fine people that I'm only now realizing are online. So the next rum up is an Angostura. Angostura comes to us from Trinidad, and Angostura is also not basically, it is a column still rum in much the same sort of Spanish tradition that the Puerto Rican and Cuban rums are. So all of these should be similar in rum profile to a certain extent. There will definitely be differences between them, but they are at least sort of traditional with regard to coquito. I'm also not going to bother cleaning off my bar spoon in between each one of these. If I were doing this properly, I would have a small vat of water here, and I would just dip my spoon in that. Well, that's interesting. So what I'm noticing here is, I should just choke up on this. The Ron de Barrelito is not mixing as well. I don't know if it's just a difference in density. There we go. Finally goes into solution. All right. So there. We will need my wife up here because she's going to participate in this tasting as well. You know, I think that was just the usual different densities, because I'm running into the same problem with the Havana Club, that I have to be really ginger about the first few stirs because, well, the coquito is a lot denser than the rum. There we go. And then we have the Angostura. And I don't know if you could tell in the video, but all of these rums, when I poured them, they just sat on the top of the coquito. So I am having to do a little bit here of action to get this incorporated. There we go. Now, traditionally, coquito would have some nutmeg grated over the top of it. But here's my issue with doing that. I do not trust my ability to get the same amount of nutmeg into each one of these glasses. So as a consequence, we're going without nutmeg. Is that all right? We're going to do this without the nutmeg.
I'm fine with that.
We need a control.
Okay.
So I need another glass. I need a... We can do that here. I can just reach in here,
Okay.
and we'll pull a coupe. That way we know it is different.
Right.
So what is going in my control? Well, what goes in my control is the first batch of coquito that we did.
Hey, okay.
And if you recall, this had 3 different kinds of rum in it. One of which was the Foursquare spiced, which is supplying almost all of the spice content. And then it had the Parrot Bay coconut. And then it had something else that I don't remember.
OFTD? Or something overproof?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So there we go. Now this pours much more smoothly. And so the mouthfeel is clearly very different here. So I'm going to take a sip of my control. So this is the same coquito from last week. It's just been sitting in the fridge for a week, and so should be really tasty.
Brooke says hi.
Hi, Brooke. Hi.
No, that one.
Hi. Sorry, not over there, over here. I'll get used to this. Really, I will.
Oh, that's good.
All right.
Mm.
So that's kind of tasty.
Very tasty.
That's our control. Next up. All right.
Do you want a water?
I should probably have some water. Yes. So we are going to try. You need a water glass.
You need a water glass. There's usually some right here.
Yeah, they're all stacked over here. I'm sorry. Yeah, you would think that we would have this down and know what we're doing, but this is an entirely different kind of broadcast. Normally, I'm just like, bang, 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 I'm going to do 3 cocktails. Here, I'm doing tasting of 8 different coquitos, so pardon me as I try and figure out how to do this. This should also be your cue that we're trying something different with the videos, and if you like this, i.e. this kind of tasting format and us giving you our impressions of these drinks, then please let us know and we'll do more of these.
And we have a different
hopefully we'll get better at it.
video setup. So
right. Yes.
Please comment on that.
All right. It smells like coquito. Oh. Oh. Well, that is quite a bit different.
That tastes more like eggnog.
It does. Much thicker, does have almost an eggy flavor to it. That, I'm not a fan of the Bacardi Superior in there, though.
I think we need another control.
That is, that's kind of burny and...
I think we need another control of the coquito without rum.
Of the coquito without, well, okay.
Of the new coquito.
Oh, fine. You want to do that. All right.
Sorry.
All of these controls. See, we don't have the experimental design set up, so... You know,
bad experiment.
It is. And if there are any of my coworkers watching, or God forbid, any of my work sponsors watching, this is not how we set up experiments for work. All right, look here. We're ready. You want to see how thick this is? Look, glop. Look at that. That's like lava. Glop, glop, glop. It really needs a little rum in order to loosen this up. All right, I'm gonna not get that all over me. Yay! Okay. Now then, you want to taste that? Much thicker.
Doesn't taste as much like eggnog as the one with the Bacardi in it.
Interesting. So for some reason, the Bacardi Silver, Bacardi's Superior, makes it just taste like eggnog. With a little bit of burn. I'm not getting any real rum flavor from it, though. It's like, oh, I can definitely tell it's alcoholic, though.
Yes.
Which I can't really with this.
Right.
So dangerous.
Yes.
Dangerous. All right, so the next one up is a higher quality, significantly higher quality rum than the Bacardi Superior.
This is the Ron Barrelito?
This is the Ron Barrelito. The Ron Barrelito 3-star. Ron Barrelito comes in a variety of different expressions. This is the 3-star, which is, of the ones I've had, this is my favorite. That is definitely better than this.
It is definitely better than that.
There's a depth and a richness to
I
that.
still like this one. Last week's better.
Well, I know it has been sitting for a week, so it's been ruminating and getting better. Yeah, the rum really comes through in last week's Coquito, and it's not quite coming as through. There's definitely a flavor there. There's definitely some alcohol there, and there's a richness that I would associate with a good spirit.
Yes.
But if you had to peg me and say what exactly is in there, I'd be like, it's probably rum because it's coming from my house. But other than that, right? Did you want another taste of this? No? All right. Wow, it's just surprising how eggy that tastes. All right, next one up. This is the Cuban Havana Club. All right. Gonna give this a spin. I get some rum smell off of this one.
That's better.
You like that significantly better?
I like that significantly better.
I think I actually like the Barrelito a little better than that. Although the Barrelito is sharper. So on the front of the tongue, that first initial splash, tartar. It's not sour, but there's a little bit of bitterness there that is.
This is warm and rummy.
Warm and rummy.
Warm and rummy.
More like caramel and toffee have been mixed into this.
We did another bar chat through the Museum of Distilled Spirits in New Orleans.
Where's my water?
Matt Petrick. I gave it to you.
Did you? Is that it?
No.
Oh, here's my water. Yeah, this stuff is so thick that it's like maybe it needs more rum.
That's and there was discussion about qualifying, tasting the rums and what do you taste in it. There was a guy from Sweden who was just like dead on perfect of all kinds of nuances and stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah. And then there's people like me. It's like hot, smooth. I like it or I don't. And that's about where I am. And Matt's like, that's fair.
That is an important thing to know. I mean, whether you like it or not, and that you can determine whether you like it or not without paying attention to the price point.
Yeah.
That will save you an awful lot of money in the future. Just because it has a high price tag on it does not mean it is necessarily better or to your taste. And this is the Angostura. Wow. There is just a distinctly bitter back taste to this that I get with the original Bacardi as well.
I don't care for that one.
Yeah, so you're gonna be drinking the Cuban, right? If we have to go with a column still, you're gonna be drinking the Cuban.
Yes.
I'll probably be drinking the Barrelito.
Yeah, I'll take the Cuban with me.
You're not going to just hang out up here because we got 4 more of these to.
But you haven't mixed them up, and
right.
I thought you'd do a break and talk about your advent calendar and then mix those up.
Do a break. Okay, fine.
So I'm going to take this one.
I'm going to drink last week's. I got to say, I think the mouthfeel on last week's is better as well. So I don't know that the cooking is really adding a lot to it. It makes it a thicker drink. It makes it more custardy. And if you like that, that's great. Because that heavy custard taste and mouthfeel comes through. So the thing that Star was alluding to is that my darling sweetie ransacked my rum collection and then ransacked other people's rums collection and composed an advent calendar for myself and Brooke, who's also online. Sorry. Keep doing this because there's image over here that's pulling my eyes in that direction. So we're going to have to work on that. So each night, Brooke and I, when we have the occasion to, will FaceTime each other and open up this bottle that we don't know what is. Star has graciously provided a clue on the outside of the bottle that will tell us something like the proof, maybe the country of origin, or something along those lines.
Maybe if it's pot or column.
Right, a Potter column or agricole or something like that. But it's usually like one word, maybe two, and that's it. Um, if you unroll that, because there's a label wraps around the bottle, you unroll that and there's a second clue that gives you more detail. So if the first one was like 40% pot still, you open up the second one and it's like, oh, it's from Venezuela. Okay, so now that helps me nail down like what we're talking about in terms of rum. But and still, it's sort of a guessing game to try and figure out what it is. But one of the nice things about this is until you reveal that third clue, you have no idea what rum you're tasting. Well, I mean, you have some because of course, there's clues. So there's no, oh, I know what I spent for this, and I really hope I like it because I spent a lot of money on that particular rum. Instead of that, you get to taste the rum clearly, and sometimes there's been some surprises. The Bounty rum that was picked up for me by friends of mine visiting the Caribbean, Bounty from St. Lucia. I gotta admit, on the first taste, when I first opened that bottle, I thought that was a pretty rough St. Lucian rum. And maybe it's just that it's been sitting in the bottle for a while. I don't know. But tasting it just out of the dram that the sweetie prepared for me, I thought it was a much better rum than I had I mean, it's still primarily a mixing rum. Don't get me wrong, but what I remembered of the harsher notes of the Bounty weren't nearly as prevalent. That is also not one of the rums that I guessed what it was. So, all right. So that's the Advent calendar, and we have not yet done the Advent calendar for this evening. So I'm going to be toasted by the time Brooke and I are talking to each other about whatever the rum is that we have for this evening. We have done our first half of this, which is the tasting of coquito made with traditional rums for this. So the presumption is that you want a Puerto Rican rum. That generally means column still, so a clean column still rum that gets most of its flavor from its aging process. It's no surprise to me that my wife selected the oldest aged of the rums, of the column still rums, to go into the coquito. Because there's probably just a little more flavor coming off of the barrel that goes into that. That is a little more pronounced and makes it somewhat more different. Makes it different, not more different. Makes it different than just the, wow, is this stuff thick coquito? All right, so that's the base coquito mix. You need the fire. Okay. All right, so we're going to go on, and we are going to try different rums because, you know, Puerto Rican rums are absolutely fine. There's some really good stuff. The Ronda Barrelito I really like. You can do some fantastic things with some age on a column still rum. But there are other ways of distilling rum, and those will frequently give you a very different flavor profile. Yes, something appears to be burning on my counter here. I'm guessing that's the incense, which will probably change the flavor profile of the next few of these. Nope, I'm going to take a drink of this before we go on. Okay. I do not believe I will be using my Angostura for coquito. Yeah, that just doesn't work for me. It's fine, but yeah, it doesn't work. So that'll go over here. Still working on my Cuban. So for the next... Sorry, the Barrelito, right. Alcohol. So four more, and I thought we would start with is, let's go to Jamaica. So Jamaica produces funky rums. There's no other way to put it. They produce funky funky rums. We were talking last night with some folks that we were introduced to, and Matt Petrick. And Matt was doing a seminar on Jamaican rums. They do some weird things with their rums. It's not just the distillation process that they use a double retort still for. It's not just the fact that they use dunder, which is essentially the leftover after running through the double retort. Sometimes they produce so much dunder that they can't keep it in the vats, and so they just let it run off, and they create these big dunder pits. And well, funky things happen to those dunder pits because they're just open to the wild, and things fall in them. Creatures fall in them, various others, and they will actually scoop some of that out and use that when they're in their distilling process. It's not a lot in comparison to what the rest of what is going into the distillate, but it's still it's not something other people do generally. So I mean, that's where your funk is coming from: the use of the dunder, the double retort, and the flavor adding that is coming from the dunder pit itself. So what we have first here is a Jamaican rum. This is imported by Hamilton, so Hamilton's Ministry of Rum Collection. This is a Jamaican pot still. This is 46.5%, so it is going to be a slightly higher alcohol percentage than any of these. This is also unaged. This is Worthy Park. Worthy Park does some worthy rums, and the Worthy Park funk is a different funk than, say, the Hamden or the Mount Gay or the Appleton funk. They're just different kinds of funk, and so we're going to give that a try. Dump that in there. And it is telling me that I need to do something with my flash player, but I'm going to ignore that on screen. So next up, we're going to go with a blended Jamaican, and we're going to we're going to significantly ramp up the alcohol percentage because we are going to go with the Smith & Cross. So Smith & Cross is an English style rum. It is traditionally Jamaican, and it clocks in at 57% alcohol. This is what we would refer to as a Navy strength rum. So this is gonna bring some fire to the party. And hold on a second. I'm gonna go to my happy place. Oh yeah, that's so good. So here we're gonna do that. There is no doubt that we are going to know that there is rum in that particular glass. So next up is the El Dorado. We're going to leave Jamaica and we're going to go to Guyana. And Guyanese rums are all produced by Diamond Distilling Limited, which is commonly known as DDL, not DDG, as I can keep trying to call it. And we're going to see. I don't know. It's a very different flavor profile than the Jamaican rums. There's not that same sense of funk to it. I'm also going to use a different jigger because that has been contaminated with Jamaican funk. And we will see what goes in here. The primary ingredient in Pusser's British Navy style rum is in fact Demerara rum from Guyana. And so we will see how that will work. And then we're going to go with another Demerara, but in this case, we are going, there it is, we're going really high test. So this is Lemon Hart 151. This is a Demerara rum produced in Guyana, of course, because it's Demerara rum. And this is 151 proof. So we're talking 75.5%. This is going to be some fiery stuff, but the flavor profile of the 151 is just unmatched and incredibly distinctive. And so I want to find out what that will do to our coquito. Hopefully it doesn't destroy the coquito. I also wanted to use up this bottle, so that's going to go in there. And interestingly enough, we also have a nice profile of different colors. So again, the rums are all sitting on top of the coquito. So here is our Worthy Park, the Hamilton pot still. Here is the Smith & Cross, with a little yellowish tint to it. Then we have the 8-year Demerara. And then we have the Lemon Hart 151 dark rum. All right, so I'm going to stick a spoon in here. We're going to mix this up. I don't worry about contaminating the Jamaican rums with the clean column still rums from Puerto Rico or anywhere else. That's just not going to be an issue. The Jamaican rums, we'll take them out back in the alley and beat the living daylights out of them, so that's fine. There will be a little bit of the Worthy Park funk that is going to wind up in my Smith & Cross because I'm lazy. Aren't you having fun? You're watching me stir. Yeah. Look, I can stir and talk at the same time, hopefully, as I look down and make sure it's not sloshing everywhere. Wow, that changes the consistency of this significantly. All right. Then now I'm actually going to switch bar spoons because that bar spoon is contaminated. So we're going to switch over here. And so this is the Demerara, the 8-year from El Dorado. El Dorado is sort of the flagship brand for DDL. It is the one everybody knows. The other night one of the advent calendar, it was the advent calendar, was the 12-year? I think it was the 12-year El Dorado, and that was quite tasty. I was like, oh, I quite like this. So I may have to drink a little more of that. Fortunately, I have some. All right, I'm gonna bring this over here because I gotta be a little careful on the 151. Obviously the densities are extremely different. I actually get a little sediment forming with the 151. I'm not sure what's going on there chemically, but get a little precipitate out. All right, I'm going to cheat. Yep. Well, that's intriguing. All right, so here we go. This is the Worthy Park. It's unaged, so it's a clear rum. This is the Smith & Cross. The Smith & Cross and the Demerara come out pretty close in color. And last we have the Lemon Hart, which looks like, I don't know, honey mustard dressing. And now we have no screen.
And now I think we have no screen. Sorry about that.
And we're back. And you caught me drinking rum. Big shot. The Hamilton, the Worthy Park. I'm not sure I'm confident about this one. I don't know. I mean, the smell will be awesome, right? But does it work with the coquito?
Yes.
Am I going to get to try that? How well does it work with the coquito? So I will say that when Greg from How to Drink was doing his testing, and he did 10, by the way, so brave man there. He did the Appleton signature for the Jamaican, and that was, I think, hands down his favorite. Was the Appleton. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested. We're not doing an Appleton this time around. We're doing 2 others from Jamaica. Okay, that's weird. The coquito and the Worthy Park rum, I think, clash, and then they kind of go back to their respective corners and relax for a bit on the finish in the tongue, if that makes any sense whatsoever. The finish is much more lovely than the front end for my taste.
Okay.
Yeah, the Coquito and the Worthy Park, they smack each other around a little bit. I think, to me, anyway.
Okay.
Um, but that is much less. It does not have the bitter component that
Right.
all of the column still runs had. That's gone. That is obliterated. The Dunder has killed it, and it does not taste as hot. All of these tasted not really hot. There, you could definitely tell that there was alcohol in those. This you can tell that there's alcohol, but you don't get that distinctive ethanol burn. Here's the Smith and Cross. I'm desperately not looking at my wife and wondering whether or not I will have any of that to drink. So let's see. I mean, she could have made a really nasty face, and I wouldn't know, but she probably didn't. Oh, you can definitely tell it. So that's the other thing is, so each of these, and the one over there that Star drank, the smell was kind of neutral. I mean, maybe you could pick out that there was some alcohol in there from the nose, but you weren't really picking up rum notes on the nose. The Worthy Park is distinctly Worthy Park. You set that in front of me, I would know it's rum, and I would know it's from Worthy Park in there.
Okay.
Smith and Cross, I couldn't tell you that it's Smith and Cross, but I could tell you easily that there is rum in that drink. Not a problem without ever tasting it. Not a problem. Yep. Oh, there's a little burn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but that's pleasant because you get this. I mean, we've had a fair amount of this. The coquito is so creamy that it's almost really nice to have the
Something that stands up to it.
stands up to it, and it's got some burn at the back end. It's not like, oh my goodness, oh, overproof burn. No, this is it's like a brush fire cutting through the underbrush. It's like it's all muddied and icky, and then oh wow, here comes in this clean flavor. Yeah, I think that's the distinct improvement with the Smith and Cross.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do prefer. Well, I know I prefer the Smith and Cross over the Worthy Park, definitely.
Okay. More than the Barrelito?
Now that I'm having the Jamaicans, yeah, I'm not so sure that the Puerto Ricans have it right. I think they might want to be importing some rum from Jamaica for their coquito. And I'm coming back to this and going, I was onto something to start with using 3 different rums to put this together. The other aspect of that, last week's, because we used the coconut bay, the Parrot Bay coconut rum in there, the coconut is much more pronounced in that
Yes,
coquito
it
than
is.
it is in these guys. These are much more like eggnog.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Even though there's no egg.
Even though there's no egg. There's a little bit of cooking, but it certainly comes out custardy.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to try Demerara.
Okay.
We're going to go with the El Dorado. See how this does. Now the El Dorado, the percentage on the El Dorado is 40%. So we're back down into more reasonable territory. Honey. Apparently she likes that one. Either that or she was going off to feed it to the cat or something. I don't know. But yeah, okay. So I know where she's going. She's going to grab my bottle of El Dorado 8 and the rest of the coquito and curl up for the evening.
They just blend.
That does. That blends really, really well.
Blends really well. It's not rum and coquito. It's
Yeah, it's a merger.
yeah.
I miss the I do miss the funk and the heat from the Smith and Cross in here.
I do too, but it blends together so well.
Yeah. I still think the spice quotient needs to be upped on these. But yeah, so that's quite good. That is definitely a merger of flavors. Um, it would be hard, I think, for me to pick that out. I mean, I know it's rum,
Right.
but it would be
You
hard.
wouldn't know what rum it is.
Right.
Because it does blend very, very well.
Yeah, I don't think I would be able to tell you that that's a Demerara coming into this. I should have some water. That would be good.
The butterscotch. That smells like overproof.
It should. I mean, that's going to be that may completely overpower the coquito.
Yep.
Smack, smack. Right. I mean, this is 75% alcohol has been added to this. Look at how. I mean, just the.
It like cooks it even more.
Yeah, the consistency is completely different here. Yeah.
Last week's is best.
And I gotta say that while I really like Lemon Heart, that flavor profile does not work with coquito. I do like the heat, but yeah, no, that's just a miss. I usually get sort of anise flavored notes off the Lemon Heart, and those are just completely a miss with the coquito. I'm going to try and dilute that a little further by adding just the straight coquito to it, and see if the dilution works more. But yeah, let's not go with the Lemon Heart 151. So I gotta agree with my wife here that I think the first coquito, the coquito we did last week, is significantly better than probably any of these. Although I would be really tempted at this point to take either the Smith and Cross or the El Dorado and mix that with the Foursquare spiced rum in one of these and see how that turns out. Now, I was not skimpy on the spices with these. I have 3 full big Seale anise cinnamon sticks split, 2 star anise, 3 or 4 cloves, some Jamaican allspice berries, a couple of cardamom pods, some vanilla extract, and nutmeg, all in the this week's coquito mix. Frankly, I don't think you need to cook it. I think the cooking of it will give you that custardy texture, and if you really want that custardy texture, then go for it. But for my money, I think you just pour the ingredients and a spiced rum together in a blender and blend that sucker up, and you've got coquito that's really tasty. So I think that's going to be my suggestion. Play with the rums, and you probably want to play with multiple rums. I would try like a Jamaican and maybe a column still, or a Jamaican and a spiced rum, and see how that works. So when Greg did his testing, he finished up with a Sailor Jerry spiced rum and a Kraken spiced rum. And he was all over the fact that both of those brought way too much clove flavor to the party. And so he was not a fan. And you'll notice that I did not do a spiced rum. And that's exactly for that reason. I figured the spices in here would be enough. I'm not so sure they were. Maybe a little spiced rum would help this particular coquito mix. So here are the ravages of 8 different glasses of coquito. And what's probably going to happen is at some point this evening, I'm just going to pour all these glasses together and drink coquito for the rest of the evening. But my dear wife has also informed me that one of the things I have not done for the last couple of weeks is make a tiki drink. And while coquito is yummy and all, it is not a tiki drink. And coquito may not be to everyone's liking. So, dude, you told me to make coquito and now I have this whole big thing of coquito. What can I do with it besides serve it to people that are now sick of drinking coquito? So we're going to try and use coquito as an ingredient in a cocktail, and we'll see how that works. I have no idea. I haven't tried it. And essentially what we're going to do is we are going to replace some orgeat and simple syrup using the coquito, because the coquito is sweet. It has a nutty, spicy element to it that I think it'll be fine in place of the orgeat, and we'll just see how that cocktail works. We are going to do a shaken cocktail, and yeah, I'll drink some of these later. You're going to drink last week's, of course. So we're going to do shaken cocktail. So we need a cocktail shaker. Dun, dun, dun. And we are going to start with 1 ounce of lime juice.
Is it over here?
That is my lime juice. Dun, dun, dun. I was like, where did it go? Freshly squeezed. Did this just about 40 minutes ago or so. All right, so 1 ounce lime juice. In we go. Set that back here. Then we're going to go to the orange curacao. I'm going to do a 1/2 ounce of orange curacao. And again, for all of my curacao purposes with tiki drinks, I rely upon Pierre Ferrand dry curacao. I just think it is the best option. So there we go. We're going to go with a 1/2 ounce. If you don't have dry curacao, it will change the flavor profile, but you can use any orange flavored liqueur that you might have. So if you happen to have some triple sec or Grand Marnier lying around, you can use it as a sub. It's just going to taste a little bit different, but you're still going to get the orange flavor through, which is really what you're wanting. Because of that, you would want to cut back on the sweet component. And in this case, we're going to use coquito as our sweet component, so you would want to cut back a little bit on the amount of coquito. Ordinarily, this calls for a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup or spice syrup and a 1/4 ounce of orgeat. And we're just going to combine that together with a 1/2 ounce of the coquito. I'm going to zap this again. All right. And we're going to go 1/2 ounce of the coquito. If I were smart, I would have done this ahead of time. I would have done this as the first ingredient so that I could be sure that I would actually get all of the coquito out. Yeah, this stuff is so thick. Wow. Glop, 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 glop. And then we need 2 ounces of rum. And here we are going with a mix of rums. We are going to go with a Jamaican rum, and we are going to go with an aged rum agricole. So for the aged rum agricole, we are going to use my standard, which is the Clement VSOP. So we're going to go 1/2 ounce, full ounce of that. And I'm also offering special Pacucci bonus points to anybody that figures out what drink I am riffing off of when I do this. And the last thing is the Jamaican rum, and we're going to go with the Jamaica. Right. And we're going to do a full ounce of the Jamaica as well. Ta-da. All right. So we have 2 different rums there. We have an aged agricole and a Jamaican rum. We have lime juice. We have orange curacao. And then we have what would ordinarily be a little bit of orgeat and a little bit of simple syrup. So who's going to tell me what that cocktail would be? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller, you're a high school student. You shouldn't know what's in this cocktail. So we're going to fill this up with some cubed ice. So we're going to lid that up. And we are going to shake.
Dana says, Mai Tai.
Dana would be right. All right, so that's nice and cold and thick and frothy. Not nearly as thick as the coquito is, but that's okay. All right, we need a rocks glass. We're going to fill that rocks glass with crushed ice. Ta-da, filled with crushed ice. And then we will strain this strainer right here. It's been a week. we're going to go with the Hawthorne, which is what I should be using to do this, not double straining. There's no reason to double strain this. Well, that looks like a pleasant, milky little concoction here. We're going to stick a half lime in there. And oh, this is why. It's because I haven't spanked any mint lately, and Star wanted me to spank some mint so you all could drink. That's what the deal was. So we're going to go with mint, and then we need a straw. Surfside sips. We'll stick that in there, overflowing with goodness. That is a holiday Mai Tai, a la Coquito. It's a little tart, because the Coquito is not nearly as sweet as the...
It is tart.
Yeah. And I think the lime juice...
settles.
I think it's also separating in the cocktail. So yeah. I would cut back on the... I'd cut back on the lime and add a little more Coquito to that. And maybe even just do a pour of Coquito over the top, like the wife is doing right now. Except that it won't come out of the glass because it's too thick. Glop, 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 glop.
Yeah, the lime knocks out the Coquito.
Yep, yes. There's a little too much lime for that. So you can't simply replace your orgeat with Coquito. That won't work. Live and let learn.
I'm still gonna drink.
So again, might take that lime all the way down to a half ounce.
How much is in there?
There's a full ounce of lime in that, and I think a half ounce would probably be much better for that. But so that's what I would do. I mean, I would take, any time that you've got a simpler spiced syrup, especially if it calls for like a gum syrup, which is slightly thicker. Or anytime it calls for orgeat and you happen to have some Coquito lying around, cut back on your sour note and add the Coquito in as your sweet note and see how that works. Now, obviously, you can't do that if your Coquito already has the rum built into it. If it already has the rum built into it, well, then your cocktail is going to be overly rummy, and you're going to have to cut back on the rum too, that would just be an awful thing, having to do that. So there you go. We have 8 different rums that we tested with the Coquito, and I think the general rule is that we actually preferred non-Puerto Rican, non-column still rums in our Coquito. And of the column still rums, there was a difference of opinion. Star really appreciated the Havana Club 7-year, and I thought the Ron de Barrelito 3-star was probably slightly better there. For both of those, though, I really think splitting the rum half and half, column still and a spiced rum would probably be the way to go. I wouldn't use anything that's overly spiced. We used the Foursquare. I really like the Foursquare. The Chairman's Reserve spiced rum would also be probably quite good. Something like the Kraken would probably overpower it. But we preferred the non-column still rums, the non-Puerto Rican style rums. And of those, the Lemon Heart is definitely going too far. Star really liked the Worthy Park. I thought that the Ray and Nephew, the Smith and Cross was a better match for it. But she then absconded with the Eldorado Demerara 8-year, which is interesting because the Eldorado that was used in the taste test for how to drink, he actually really didn't like the Demerara merging with the Coquito. Did not like that flavor at all. So different flavor profiles for different folks. Star really liked the 8-year. I like the Smith and Cross. Greg preferred, I think, the Appleton signature. So you can...
And we did not care for the 151.
Yes, definitely not the 151. Do not waste your 151s on trying to spike up the Coquito. It's not worth it. Drinking for effect is not worth it. Don't do it. So there you go. There's some coquito with different rums. Um, and I do think that there is a difference between the cold, strictly blended version of coquito and the cooked version. The cooked version is much more custardy. It is much thicker. And as a consequence, there's a slightly different mouthfeel to it that I'm not sure that I'm really a fan of. I mean, I think I like the blended, frothy, lighter flavor of the pure blend coquito just a bit better. Now that this is perfectly fine to have that preference because coquito is essentially a home recipe. So if your family likes X, go with X. If they like Y, go with Y. In our case, we're going to skip the whole cooking business and we're just going to blend up some more coquito at some point and have coquito through the holidays. So there you go. That's our fun and games for the evening. Did I learn anything this week? Yes, I learned a ton about Jamaican rum because we sat down and had an hour and a half long discussion with Matt Petrick, who knows more about Jamaican rum than most people on the planet. There were, as Star says, there were only about 8 other people online with us, and this was a class discussion seminar offered through the
Museum of Distilled Spirits.
The Museum of Distilled Spirits, which is out of New Orleans, as I recall. And so, yeah, we quite recommend some of their programs. So one of the things I alluded to earlier was we always knew that dunder was one of the things that helped make Jamaican rum so funky. But what I didn't realize was that there is dunder that is pulled out of the tanks and kept essentially relatively clean. It's a clean, clear distillate. And then there is the dunder that goes out into the muck pit. And the two dunders are not equivalent. And while they put a significant amount of dunder back into their pot still, they do add a little bit of the muck pit for quote unquote flavor. And so, it was interesting to note that, I've always heard the addition of dunder is really what makes Jamaican rum. Well, it's a little bit more than that because it's not just dunder, it's the dunder and the dunder from the muck pit and the double retort still. And so, here I am, I'm geeking out with other people about loving Jamaican rum. And we're all sitting around sipping really high quality, good Jamaican rums. We're drinking
The guy from
Hamdens and
Sweden had stuff
Worthy
on us
Parks.
to get.
Right, yes. One of the nice things about these kind of broadcasts is that they are from around the world. We had an Aussie in there, at least one Aussie. And then we got Johannes from Sweden, Matt from New Orleans, which isn't a foreign country, but for all intents and purposes is within the United States. And then just scattered people around the United States, all chiming in. And so everybody has different access to different things. So it was really kind of amusing at one point when we realized that all of us were drinking from not the same bottle, but we're all drinking the same expression of rum from Worthy Park. So it was like, oh, that's kind of cool that we all tended to fall into line with that one.
We do have a question.
We do have a question. There was a hand up from the wife saying there's a question.
Amanda says, when I bought my Zaya rum, it came with an ice ball mold as part of the holiday package.
Okay.
I'm assuming I can use the ice ball to drink the rum and other spirits straight with the ice balls?
Yeah, definitely. If you, not knowing exactly what they gave you as an ice ball mold, it is possible to do sort of a directional freezing with the ice ball mold, and you'll get a very, very clear globe of ice, which is just really awesome. Anytime you get cloudy ice, that's because there's impurities in the ice, either in the water or trapped in air that's trapped into the ice. So, yeah, some people say boil the water, let it sit, and then pour it in and do a directional freezing, which we could talk about that some other time using an insulated cooler to do directional freezing. So you're taking an insulated cooler and you're actually putting that in your freezer and you're letting it do a top-down cooling. Blah, 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 different ways of getting clear ice, blah, 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 blah. Yes, for drinking rum straight, a single solid cube of fairly large size is probably your best bet.
And
Why do you want a single large cube and not, say, multiple cubes of ice? Well, because the greater the surface area between the ice and the distillate that you're drinking, the spirit that you're drinking, the more dilution you'll get off of the ice. So your drink will get both colder faster, but it will also get more dilute faster. And so unless you are wanting to knock back your expensive rum, scotch, etc., you really want a larger rock, which will help keep it cold, but won't dilute it nearly as fast. The surface contact area is actually smaller, and the larger rock will stay colder because it's a larger mass for a longer period of time. So it all works out better. So yeah, single large rock is generally preferred in those cases.
Dana has a Death Star mold.
Death Star mold, which is pretty much, that's a sphere, largely. It's not a moon. Never mistake it for a moon. It's not a moon. That's not a moon. So yeah, Death Star would work. The nice thing about the Death Star mold, so you can take the Death Star mold and put the globe of ice in your hand and take an ice cracker or the back of a bar spoon, and you go snap, and it'll fracture off bits of it, and then you can drop that into a glass. And then you can do in your best Emperor Palpatine voice, this fully armed and operational battle station, because that's, everybody thought it wasn't fully finished, and it is. Oh, spoiler, sorry if you haven't seen it. Return of the Jedi, yeah, whatever. Everyone's seen it by now. And if you haven't, I'm not spoiling anything for you because you've had plenty of time to see it. So there you go. So there's, we've covered ice. We've covered, what did I learn this week? What else? What else could we talk about? I think that's about it.
People are Christmas shopping.
People are Christmas shopping. Not necessarily for me, which I don't know what's up with that, but might want to tell people where they can get Christmas gifts from. Is that what you're suggesting? So you're suggesting that maybe we should talk up Surfside Sips, which supplies us with straws. So we have non-disposable. These are glass straws, which are hand done, and this is their bamboo straw. It has a larger diameter for drinks that have crushed ice in them. Mm-hmm. This is also ideal at this length for your deeper tiki mugs. They can do other designs like this, which is it's an off-white, and it has like a little bone on either end. So it looks like a bone. Yeah, don't let your dog get to this because it is glass. And then, one of my personal favorites is the tentacle or the straw fulu. So you got tentacles, and they can do the tentacles in different ways on the straw. I wouldn't get too creative with putting too much curve in here because you're trying to clean those out, and that gets a little tricky. For those of you that are political cause-minded, they can also do things like this, where I'm not sure if you can tell, but there is a little GLBT rainbow flag on this straw here. So, and they do obviously straws of different heights and different diameters and different colors. You can get ones with like little animals blown glass animals on them and stuff. So that's all very cool. And as far as I know, if you go to their website and you order something from them, and into the promo code you type in capital letters LOVECRAFT, that's Lovecraft, you will receive a 20% discount on your order, which would be very, very cool. Getting cool Christmas gifts for people and saving money. Apparently, it is. We don't actually have sponsors on the show, really. But we have people that we like that do interesting things that we buy from. And this person we found on Etsy.
Because someone sent us a gift.
Right. And so we have a couple of cocktail picks. And here's this is a small bar spoon that have tiki insignias on them. And there's a little tiki head here.
She does tiki picks. She does martini picks. She does coasters. Dizzy Diva on Etsy. And we don't have a code for her, but you know, she's awesome.
And in a pinch, this can be used for lobotomies. But I'm just saying, in a pinch, right? You never know. Zombies, it's a thing,
Right.
possibly. Maybe Christmas zombies. I don't know. We don't have to go to the mall anymore, so probably no Christmas zombies.
True.
Right? Who else? Anybody else?
Support your local bar.
Yeah.
Tiki bar that has, you can buy gift cards, you can buy their mugs. Smuggler's Cove, you can buy their book.
Yep. Jeff Beachbum Berry, his place down Latitude 29 in New Orleans is still going strong, and you can buy merchandise from them.
Yeah.
Help keep them around. Down the street is Tiki Tolteca. I'm sure they're doing something along the same lines. Archipelago in DC.
Yeah, he's doing to-go boxes with mugs and drinks and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, even just getting gift cards for the local small shops or bars or restaurants that you like for people to use in the after times.
In the after times. Yeah. Assuming there are after times. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll help them.
Right. And, if you happen to be local in the DC area, we'll give a shout out to a couple of the DC liquor stores that are near and dear to our heart. So there's Ace Beverage up in Northeast Washington, DC. There's S&R Liquors, which is over by K Street, Farragut West, Farragut North metro stops in that area. And there's always Schneider's. Schneider's is very good about finding things for you. And failing that, who else have we patronized? Oh, Calvert and Woodley.
Calvert and Woodley.
So, here's all these, great local liquor stores within DC. The other thing I will say is if you live near a Total Wine that is actually capable of legally stocking distilled spirits, you might give them a try. We did find out this week that Total Wine and Foursquare Distillery sort of got into bed together really pretty early on in both the growth of Total Wine and the emergence of Foursquare in the United States. And as a consequence, the Total Wine still has the exclusive rights to carry Dorley's rum from Foursquare. And so that's very cool. And we got to see a discussion, a question and answer session with Mr. Richard Seale from Foursquare. And he had nothing but praise to say for the folks over at Total Wine for making the distribution process in the United States something that Foursquare could actually do. So there you go. There's a shout out to Total Wine. And if you happen to live in a spot where Total Wine can't carry distilled spirits, like, I don't know, Virginia, hopefully there's a state near you that can. And if not, Total Wine actually has a pretty darn good selection of wine too, and wine and various champagne-y kind of products.
And mixers.
And mixers and that sort of thing. So here's our little shout out to Total Wine, which started out small and is now not. So there you go. How's that? That covers my Christmas. Maybe not. So we'll do a shout out. So sure. I mean the website's name is Lovecraft Cocktails, and we do all sorts of different cocktails, and usually it's tiki themed. But you will have noticed that there is a certain Lovecraftian feel to what we are doing here. There's tentacles all over the place. I've got a bar spoon with a Cthulhu on the top of it. So I would just, if you are interested in Lovecraftian stuff, if you have not already checked them out, check out Sandy Peterson Games. Sandy Peterson was the one that brought Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game, into being, as it were. And Sandy Peterson does some really good gaming work, and just released a brand new Cthulhu game for the Christmas season. So that's my shout out for Cthulhu-esque or Lovecraftian themed games, which we also quite enjoy around here, sometimes while we are sipping some daggone tasty beverages. So there you go. Yeah, I just made my wife roll her eyes with that pun. So there you go. We're gonna wrap this. This has been our 35th episode of Quarantiki. Eventually, knock on wood, we will have to call this something else besides Quarantiki, but not anytime soon. So stay safe, stay as much as you can socially isolated, wear a mask, stick a straw under it, and have a couple of drinks. So we'll talk to you later, probably next week.